Welcome to today's panel discussion, Tapping into the Veteran Population to Build a High-Tech Workforce Pipeline. For the next hour, my panel guests and I will focus on the need for skilled technicians, the benefits of accessing the military population to fill demand, and the role community colleges can play to facilitate veteran-employer connections. At the end, we'll talk about 2 veteran technician training programs, and this will provide you with concrete examples of community college engagement. So without further ado, I'd like to give a very brief introduction to our panelists. First, we have Sean Harrison, HR Business Partner, Global Operations at Cree Wolfspeed in Durham, North Carolina. Thanks, Sean. We have Craig McNamara, Transition Services Manager, Fort Drum, Transition and Employment Assistance Program in Watertown, New York. Thank you, Craig. We have Bob Ehrman, Managing Director for Nanotechnology Education and Utilization, CNEU, Pennsylvania Nanofabrication Manufacturing Technology, NMT Partnership, NSF National Nanotechnology Applications and Career Knowledge, NAC Network. Phew, geez, Bob, what don't you do? And by the way, all this happens at Happy Valley, Penn State University, hence the Nittany Lion background. Got it. And I'm Kate Alcott. I'm the Associate Director, Northeast Advanced Technological Education Center, or NEATech, and we're hosted at SUNY Polytechnic Institute in beautiful upstate New York. I'm also the Veteran Liaison for the Micro Nanotechnology Education Center. So first of all, thank you all for sharing your time and expertise with us today. We are so grateful. Sean, I'd like to start with you. I mentioned just a minute ago that you work for Cree Wolfspeed in North Carolina, but there might be some folks that aren't familiar with this company. Can you just tell us a little bit about Cree?
Sure, Kate. Thank you again for allowing me to be on this panel. I'm really excited about it. So Cree Wolfspeed, we are now a semiconductor company. Formerly, some of you may have heard of Cree Lighting, where we had the Cree light bulbs, and they're a spin-off company now. But we are a pure plug-and-play semiconductor company now. We make materials called silicon carbide that are used in electric vehicles, the electric vehicle charging stations, a host of military applications, and also the new 5G network that all of the phone companies are putting online now. So very, very busy time for us.
Absolutely. You are certainly in the right space. And my guess is your job in HR is a busy one.
Yes, ma'am. It is very busy, but I enjoy it. I love working with people. That's our greatest resource. So what better place to be?
Absolutely. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I have some questions for you, Sean.
Okay.
Tell us about your transition experience. I know you were a proud Marine and retired after many, many years of service. Can you tell us about when you retired from the military and how you ended up working in high tech?
Okay. I served 25 years in the Marine Corps. When my time came to transition, I can freely admit now, at the time I wouldn't admit, that it was a very scary time. You're moving from an area that you're an expert in and you're very comfortable in the space and with the people, moving into what is really a completely foreign environment, operating in a strictly civilian environment. So it was very scary. Going through the transition programs, you get, at my level of the Marine Corps, we would get 2 weeks of transition time and get transition classes and training. And it seemed like they gave us, a ton of information, but there's just so much to absorb and learn that it just kind of adds to the anxiety in the end. When I first retired, my original plan was to just stay retired and do nothing, and to go from such a high impact environment to just peace and quiet in the house was not the way for me personally. Some people can adjust to it. I just couldn't. It was just too quiet, and I was driving my wife crazy, and she was like, you got to get out of here. You got to find something to do. So I ended up, my first role with a manufacturing company, I ended up working with a military style recruiter, and they got me a role as a supervisor in a manufacturing company for fiberglass manufacturing. I stayed there for a while, and then I moved to another company as a supervisor, plastic injection molding, getting a little more technical on that end. And then I landed at Cree. It was an awesome experience to move from those two supervisor roles into a supervisor role in the research and development department at Cree, which was extremely high tech. We were, improving current products and also creating things that, never existed before on the market. So it was quite a learning curve for me. I had to really, buckle down and learn from the technicians, from the staff there. And what I found, just like in the military, if you take care of people, they'll take care of you. So they gave me all the information I needed to make me successful. And then I made another career change, but within Cree, into the human resources department. I really realized that my niche was working with people and helping them, and helping them to be better, and working with that resource. So that was my journey, transitioning out of the military, going from that fear to taking a small step with that first role to another step, and then getting really comfortable and learning how to grow within a company. So.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'm sure Cree is very happy that you found them. And speaking of Cree, I know that you and I have talked about a project that you're very passionate about, and I think your background suggests it. Tell us about the Veterans Pack at Cree and your role
Yes.
in it.
Yeah, so Cree started a number of employee resource groups about a year ago. And I, of course, coming from the military, I still missed some of that camaraderie. This is our headquarters here in Durham, North Carolina. So there are several thousand people that work here, and you don't really get to know everyone at work like you would in a unit in the military, where you get to know people. But I utilize those military skills to jump around and get to know people in different departments, because we all need help. I don't care where you work. It's always easier when you know somebody in a specific space. So with that, missing that camaraderie, I also thought to myself, I don't really know how many veterans we have here at Cree. I would randomly meet people, and through conversations, we would talk, and realize we were both veterans, and then have that instant connection, be able to joke with each other, give each other a hard time. And it's just a comfortable space. So I wanted to create an employee resource group where we can identify all of the veterans in the organization, and also help each other, talk to each other, and just, network and be there for each other. When new veterans come on to the company, we can meet them, give them that warm handshake, and let them know they're in a place that's familiar, even though it's a little unfamiliar for them. They have a resource to come to and ask questions, and just feel comfortable navigating. Because I can even share with you, my first job when I got out, I really had to wonder what to wear to work the next day. I was like wearing a uniform for 25 years, so I wasn't exactly sure, and I was a little embarrassed to ask people. But a fellow veteran, it would have been a quick conversation like, "Hey, I see what you're wearing. Is that okay for me?" So
Right. Help me with my civvies.
group of
Right?
people where we can, build off of each other, and give each other support.
I love the idea of this veteran pack, and I wish more companies did this, because one of the problems you read about is once veterans are hired, it's sometimes difficult to keep them, right?
Yes.
So keeping them at a job is just as important as attracting them, and you keep them by supporting them, by
Exactly.
giving them a network that makes them feel that they're a part of a brotherhood again, right? Or a sisterhood.
Yes.
And that's exactly what you've done at Cree. So I love that idea, and I think it's great. And another company I work with is Global Foundries, and I have an Air Force friend that works there that started a similar PAC, similar employee support group for veterans. Same exact reasoning you gave. Relationships. It's all about relationships, right?
Okay.
Wherever you work, your success depends on other people. And so helping navigate that is a big part of success in any career. So thank you for that. I have another question for you, and that is, why do you think veterans are a good fit for the semiconductor or basically any high-tech industry? What special qualities do they bring to your workforce?
I think veterans are a good fit for every job, for every career. You gain so many intangible skills when you're in the military, regardless of what your military occupational specialty was. It's easier to teach someone something technical than it is to teach someone to be a leader. The leadership skills that you gain when you're in the military, and those things like work ethic and simple things like showing up on time and being prepared, those are things that are ingrained in you in the military. And when you bring that to the workforce, it's just a plug and play. It's a simple fit. It's just an easy transition for someone who's been in the military to come into a role, even a technical role, because they're going to have that drive, they're going to have that determination to learn and to strive to be the best in those positions. So it's like I said, and I tell people in HR all the time, it's a lot easier for us, even if the skills don't completely match on paper, for someone who may be coming from combat arms, for example. The skills may not exactly match on paper, but the skills that are things that you can't reach out and touch are what you should really value. And when we get those types of folks in, they show us quickly that, that they're capable and they're determined and they're willing to learn and they're ready to do the job. So I try and get every veteran that we can, on board with us.
You and I have had this conversation, and I think I might have with Bob and Craig as well. But there's a lot of talk amongst employers now about soft skills, right?
Yes.
How important soft skills are. And first of all, I hate that term because I don't think there's anything soft about them. I really don't. I think they're professional skills, they're necessary skills, they're invaluable skills. And you hit it right on the head that, another quality I think veterans bring is the ability to collaborate. They're used to working in groups, right? You don't work alone in the military, ever.
Never.
You depend on others, right? And manufacturing specifically and particularly is a group effort, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I couldn't agree more. So Sean, thank you. We'll, I'm sure, get back to you in a second, but I want to give the other panelists an opportunity too to tell about what they do.
Okay.
So Craig, I mentioned Fort Drum in your introduction, and I just wanted folks to know again that it's an Army installation. It's home. It's the proud home of the 10th Mountain Division. And you're a retired Army veteran. So I think you bring an absolute, invaluable perspective to your current position. But I want to talk a little bit, Craig, about your last position right before you came to Fort Drum. Because before you assumed the manager's role at Fort Drum, you worked at a nearby community college. Would you tell us about your position there and how it supported the military community?
Yes, absolutely. And first off, thank you for having me here today. I'm really excited to be here. And Sean, what an amazing rundown you just did. I mean, I found so much commonality in my experience with what you just said. And that kind of is a great vignette on how veterans work together. I knew Sean for a few moments and I was already teasing him about being a Marine. So, we just naturally gel. It's, birds of a feather flock together. And that's kind of what you bring. And I think one of the things that you were talking about earlier, before I get to my job at the college, really the term is adaptability and willingness to try. Veterans are adaptable. They really don't fear unknown circumstances, and they're willing to roll up their sleeves, try hard. They're highly trainable and adaptable, and that's really what makes veterans excel. And I'll kind of talk a little bit about the college now. When I got there, I was the educational coordinator for veteran services, and what I did in that capacity was I worked with our veteran students and linked them to their veteran educational benefits. And every state has different education at the state level. Obviously, everybody's heard of the GI Bill, and the GI Bill is a powerful tool to assist veterans in education and attaining those educational goals. So I was an academic advisor. I was a shoulder to cry on. I was a source of support. I was whatever our student veterans needed to ensure their success. And we had a veterans lounge, and in that lounge, similar to the banter that Sean and I had a little bit before we started this, we had all those great camaraderie going on in there, and there's that source of support in there. But one of the things I did for our faculty and staff at the college, because nobody knew who the veterans were, and Sean alluded to this as well, is I identified them. I found them, I made connections with them, and then we had a ceremony, because it was kind of in my purview to as the Veterans Education Coordinator, to extend that to the broader campus. In that role, I worked a lot with our student veterans, and that was really my joy. So I moved up, and we used a guided pathways model. A lot of community colleges will be very familiar with that. We had meta majors and things like that. But one of the things that we found really productive in that is something that we had been doing with our veterans for a little while, which was sort of and anybody who served can understand the concept of a map. I'm at point A, I need to get to point B. So through the Guided Pathways project, we started doing that with the campus at large, and found so much commonality. I mean, obviously everybody wants a starting point, where you are in the middle, and how to end strong. So we kind of borrowed and brought it over, and it was a really powerful thing. We've been using it with our veterans, not as formally as we had there, but that really brought a lot of strength to our campus, a lot of commonality among our students, and they knew where they were in the beginning, they knew where they were in the middle. So the things you might think you're putting in effort for veterans in your population or something like that, you might find commonality and broader usage of across your entire organization. So yeah, community college.
So Craig, you were working on the credit side of the house, right, at your community college. And so these were active duty service members and their families taking coursework. I'm wondering, was this all online, or were some able to take some in person?
So for our active duty, I worked with our veterans, and I also worked with some of our active duty members. So some of them were able to take classes after work at 6 o'clock. Classes start at 6:30. And others were able to use some sort of educational option that they got for reenlistment and things like that. So it really ran the gamut. Some of them were, in fact, students doing online education. For me, that was never the challenge, because for a lot of times, and veterans are just like every other human being you've ever come across in your life. I don't know that there's any, one term that would adequately describe, an entire cohort of veterans. But connecting them to the power of their education, connecting them to the opportunities that's going to bring to them, keeping that aspirational aspect to your conversations, and really showing the value of education, whether that's technical education and you're doing, micro-credentialing and manufacturing techniques, or whether that's good old-fashioned meat and potatoes, liberal arts and humanities, formalized education, credit-bearing stuff. All of that, people need to see that tactile connection to their efforts. Like, I'm doing this to achieve that, and they need to be reminded of it from time to time.
Exactly. And Craig, I know we've all, heard horror stories of kind of veterans getting, I don't know the better word for it, taken advantage of with some for-profit colleges in the past where, you know, they've kind of sold them a bill of goods and had them spend a lot of their GI Bill. And at the end, they come away with no degree, you know, just kind of a tapestry of coursework that doesn't really end in a viable degree.
Yeah.
So I know that, you know, you by doing this career pathway and mapping, your school was very, very cognizant of getting them that ultimate goal, which was the degree. So
Yeah, that's always the focus.
always the focus, absolutely. So let's move to your new gig at Fort Drum. And tell us about that and how you're helping service members in this new capacity.
So in my new capacity, I'm the transition service manager for the Fort Drum Transition Assistance Program. And that anxiety that Sean had referenced earlier about that last year in service or so, and how that anxiety and that trepidation builds over time. My purpose and the staff that I work with's purpose is to remove that anxiety. And we have an amazing team with us that really works hard. We have 45 to 55 hours of curriculum that we deliver to our transitioning service members that prepares them for those opportunities. And we do it over a 12-month period. What we're finding is by distributing that out, using a distributive model like that, our population of transitioning soldiers are able to receive information, but more importantly, have time to reflect on it, get to that introspective place where it finds meaning in them. And through that meaning, we can refine their understanding of that. So like Sean talked about a 2-week, sort of time intensive drinking from a fire hose sort of experience. We've stepped away from that. And so what we have to do is we have to work with our units and our commanders to make sure they understand the benefits of spreading this out over 12 months and that it doesn't ultimately affect them anymore. It's going to be 45 hours to 55 hours, whether we do it in 2 weeks or we take 12 months to do it. But the outcome is the preparation of the soldier and the service member to make the transition and their confidence and ability in doing that in a strong, meaningful way. So we talk a lot about meaningful transitions. We talk about finding a new sense of service, whether that's you transition out of the military, you go to Cree and you work at Cree, or you attend Penn State. Find a way to make a connection in that community, to be of service, to be of benefit, because when you do that, what you give out, you get back tenfold. And it anchors you into a community where you have an immediately built support structure and people who care for you deeply and want you to be successful, and then you feel the same towards them, and that builds that camaraderie and that familiarity what we had in the military. People think that's very unique to the military, and certainly aspects of it are. I don't think Cree deploys people around the world to fight and win our nation's wars. So there's that unique aspect of military service, and I see Sean smiling. That's the unique aspect of that. But you can build that camaraderie anywhere you find it. We call it love the one you're with, right? So if I go to work at Cree tomorrow, or if I'm a student at Penn State, I feel an obligation to be part of that community and to bring benefit to that community. And I do that because I know Sean or I know Bob, and we've worked together, and I want to make sure they're successful and they feel the same way about me. So it's not hard to build that over time. And I spend a lot of our time here in this program specifically with my current role, making sure that soldiers understand that that's kind of how it works. And if you don't want to be part of that, that doesn't mean you automatically fail. It means you're electing to take a path less traveled. And that's okay. I mean, for some people, they're very introspective and they're quiet and reserved, but I always encourage them, remember to find your community, to find the people who you can be of support to, because again, that's going to come back to you tenfold, and who can support you. So that's really what we spend a lot of time here. Now, to get to more technical aspects, part of the job and the reason that we started 12 months is we're trying to finish our soldiers up with that curriculum at the 6-month mark. And that opens opportunities for them to do wonderful things like our advanced manufacturing programs that we're trying to put together now, that soldiers can go out and attend a vocational experience, gain what I call hard cards, gain micro-credentialing, gain some sort of aspect that is resume building, but also credential building, and then follow that up with an experience like an internship that allows them to lift the veil entirely of the civilian world immerse themselves in that environment before they ever depart the military and feel a great sense of accomplishment in having done that. And when Sean talked about that anxiety, all of those synapses, that entire 5 minutes I just covered for you, flooded over me, because that is what we're here to prevent. We're here to, that anxiety is going to exist, Sean. It's never going to go away. You and I know that. But if we can mitigate it to the right place, and we can instruct it, we can educate it, and we can form it through experience and education, then our veterans and our soldiers, because my soldiers today are your veterans tomorrow, they make powerful transitions, and they make them with a lot of knowledge, a lot of conviction, and a lot of optimism. So that's our goal. Does it work every time? Of course not. It's not a perfect world, but it works most of the time, and that's what I hope, Sean. When Sean, you get a port drum soldier, I hope you say, wow, this guy's got a fire, or this gal's got a fire in their belly, and they're ready to work, and they understand the sense of community and what it takes to be successful in this environment. You know?
So, Craig, I need to pick your brain here, because you've spent time in the community college world.
It will be a small snack. But go ahead. Yeah.
All righty. What advice would you give to a community college that's interested in workforce development? They want to increase enrollment. They want to put some people in seats, and they have a military base nearby. What advice would you give them?
So there's two institutions on a military base, and it doesn't matter what branch of the services it is. There's going to be an educational component on the base, and that's largely your credit-bearing folks, the people who really work direct credit-to-credit stuff. And then there's going to be someone like me, a transition service manager, that can sort of feel comfortable in either area, but mostly leans towards the vocational and technical side. As part of our program, our soldiers can sign up for DoD skill bridge programs across the nation. So I would encourage them to reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out to your local installation. They want you as much as you want them. Internally on a college campus, I would say, look at your veterans population, see if there's unique ways to serve them. NACADA has a lot of different advising models for adult learners. I will tell you that those models cut twice. They work great for veterans too. Make sure that there's a place for what Sean talked about earlier, that communal sort of understanding that veterans sort of share with one another. That's always a very powerful thing. Build a veterans lounge if you can. But by all means, reach out to the education center or the transition center on those installations. If you don't know who they are, just use Google. Google will get you close enough. Get a number on base. I promise you, someone knows who runs the education center. Someone knows who runs the transition center, and make those phone calls and start those relationships. I will give you this in parting as a strong sense of accomplishment. We have so many great partners, and Kate's one of our partners. We have so many great partners that we rely on so heavily to build these opportunities, so I can get to that aspirational piece I spent 5 minutes talking about. We can't do it without our partners. And the fact that our partners are there, we are incredibly grateful that they've come to us and that they want us to do that. So if you're not making the phone call, you're not servicing that installation well, you're not servicing those future veterans well. So make the phone call, and I will make myself available. If you've hit all deadlines and you can't figure it out, give me a call, and I will absolutely help you. I don't mind at all, because those connections are so strong, and we really model the civilian world for our soldiers as best we can. And part of being able to do that is to be able to link them up with partner agencies and educational institutions in the community or outside the community that can really help them sort of understand the full depth and breadth of this transition they're about to enter into. So, I hope I answered that question.
Excellent. Yes, you absolutely did. So really 2 access points, the VALED, the Ed Center, and the transition assistance, or the employment skills part of the base. So, and I have a listing that I obtained through DoD of contact information on various bases. So anyone watching this who's saying, well, what about my base? And who do I go to there? Please reach out to me, and I'm happy to give you that information and share. So thank you so much, Craig. And I'm sorry about the not being able to show your picture, but we had a bandwidth issue.
I think we can agree this is going better without my face in there.
Not at all. We
No,
miss
I
your
really
face.
appreciate this. Thanks for letting me participate.
We miss your face. So,
All right.
so Bob, I want to, I promised in the beginning that I'd give two examples of programs that, work in partnership with a community college. And I know Penn State's a four-year school. Mine's a four-year school, but we've buddied up with some community college partners, right?
Correct.
To establish a veterans program. I'd love you to tell us about your program that you're running in Virginia.
Okay, great. In order to do that, I do have to go back into, we're a university, okay, and we are working with community college, and we talked about bringing the technical workforce there. We're funded by the NSF Advanced Technological Education area, and that is focused on technicians. Now, the technicians can be at the baccalaureate level, but mostly at the associate level. Now, what we decided to do many years ago is share the assets of Penn State with community college across the state of Pennsylvania, and create, because industry, like things like, maybe was pre-Cree, but some of the microelectronics industry needed technicians. So we created a program using the assets of Penn State, which are the clean rooms and the equipment and and the expertise to train technicians, partnering with community colleges across the state, as well as other baccalaureate institutions in the state of Pennsylvania. This is 20-ish years ago. We've been doing that for many years, and we were lucky enough through that period to attain some NSF funding to basically spread that across the country, that model across the country, and train technicians at that level, to bring them to industry and create infrastructure for the country in the previously micro, now nano industries, if you will, to bring them into industries like Cree and to, the Microns of the world and and all the other semiconductor industries, Intel, Global Foundries you mentioned earlier, and so on, TSMC and so on, bring those folks in there, as well as to other industries that work at the micro nano scale. So we've been doing this for many years. And one of about 5 or 6 years ago, we decided, well, we need to do a better job of working with the veteran population. We had created some personnel certificates and we're in the process of creating them, finishing them up, to basically show that people who have gone through our programs in anywhere in the country have attained the skills necessary, the knowledge necessary to be able to work in these industries. So things like working in micro fabrication and nano fabrication or nano characterization, or under safety and health, they would attain these certificates. And that was a nice fit when we started working with the military. And through a series of connections, we had a connection with Tidewater Community College, made a connection with Tidewater Community College. And we tried to do it in Pennsylvania, but there really wasn't a good place in Pennsylvania. So since we had a national effort, it seemed like that was a good place to go. There's a lot of returning veterans there, people that would be transitioning. And I've learned a lot in those last 5 years about the military community. I was not in the service myself, but I learned a lot about how that works. A lot of it thanks to Kate. She's educated me over the last several years on that. And we decided to create a program based upon what we called our capstone semester, which was training those community college students that would actually come from the community college, and in their last semester or capstone semester, they would spend here and take 18 credits worth of material. Now, when we started working with the military, the credit bearing model might not work because the students might not have that community college level. They might want to go out and work, but they have the practical knowledge and the skill sets from what they learned during their military career and all the stuff you talked about. When I first started this, I asked some of our industrial partners, I said, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing. and we're trying to work into the military community, and basically their eyes lit up and they said, oh my goodness, you know, we hire veterans, and I worked in industry for many, many years, and I had worked with veterans who came and worked there, and all the qualities you talked about earlier were there. You know, basically those soft, I'm sorry to use the term, Kate, but those soft skills you talked about earlier, and the, you know, basically they want to succeed, they want to be the best, they're there on time, all those things were there. And they said, if you can train them in this, you know, in kind of this area, they would be like gold to us. We already hire veterans, but getting them trained in this area would be like gold. And so we went further on it and decided to create this program based on our semester. And then what we created was, we call it the Nano Manufacturing Certificate Program. And I got to tell you right now, it's in pilot mode. It's not there yet, but it is in pilot mode. We are working on our second offering this fall, starting in the end of August. So a month from now, basically, we will be starting our second pilot. We're in the recruitment mode right now, trying to get transitioning military. It's called the Skill Bridge program. And I think Craig might have mentioned it a little bit earlier. They had a year, you know, at Fort Drum, but really, I think officially the last 6 months is where they can take. Is it more than that? I don't know. Maybe 6 months is where they. Let's say again.
It's 6 months.
Yeah.
What Craig's talking about is they get transition assistance.
Yes.
Up to it's up to 18 months. I think it's 2 years for retirees, right, Craig?
That's correct. Yep.
See, I told you she's been training me all along, and and continues. So we applied for through the Center for Military and Veterans Education at Tidewater. We got some nice contacts there. Applied for and received Skill Bridge approval for this because we had industry backing. We had these certificates. There's a strong need for getting a technical workforce out there. And again, people like Cree, people like, you know, Microns and the TSMCs and the Intels and so on there, they would love to have these transitioning veterans. So we're in the process right now of running this pilot with these veterans. And we're actually funded on the NSF's dime right now to make that happen for this period. And we're also concurrently applying for VA approval for the next offering of these and the future offerings. And part of our role is to create infrastructure for the country. And we have partners all across the country who are training in micro and nanotechnology, various aspects of it. The idea would be to proliferate this and have this model at places across the country that are near, you know, community colleges / universities that are near military bases, San Antonio, Texas, maybe, or San Diego, California, or Bremerton, Washington, or wherever it might be, all across the country, where there are places that this would make, Phoenix, Arizona, where there would make sense for this to happen. So that's what we're doing. And I'll let you know later how successful we are. We're going to be monitoring how those students, those transitioning military do. We're also accepting veterans into the program, or military families at this point who are looking for the next opportunity or for outstanding careers, and are maybe looking for the, you know, looking to get some training. So that's kind of where we are right now.
Bob, I want to, just because we're talking about community colleges and accessing the military population, Tidewater, your partner, Tidewater Community College, has been very active in terms of working with all of the bases in the Norfolk area. There's a lot of them.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe they have, is it 9 Skill Bridge programs?
I think that is that number does resonate. I think that is the number. They have 9, of which we are one of them. We're probably the most technical of all those programs. They and so it's interesting getting the attention of the veterans to understand what this is. Now, remember, I called it the Nano Manufacturing Certificate program, and How do you get to make sure that they understand that a veteran who sees this as a line item as one of those 9 that you could be very much qualified to be able to go to that and be able to bring that skill and have a great career. So part of it is marketing of it, if you will, to make sure that you're reaching these potential veterans and getting them out there and understanding the opportunities that are there for them.
And that's, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's one of the roles of your community college partner.
Yeah, it's their primary role.
Yeah, is to go on base. And Craig, you have it at Drum. I'm sure every base does, but career days or career exploration, where basically the folks from Tidewater go on and talk to a group of transitioning soldiers about career opportunities in this particular space. And so, yeah, part of this job is creating awareness.
Right.
Many of these transitioning service members never had another job. They enlisted right out of high school, and so they aren't necessarily aware of all the career opportunities that are available to them. So I know, Craig, your staff works very hard on just that career awareness piece, explaining what's out there.
Yeah, it's making the connection with the transitioning soldier about, and Bob summarized it really well, like nanotechnology doesn't ring a bell, right? Like, I don't know what that is. It's small technology. So making them understand what it is, like mechatronics is not a word that rings with them. So it's really bringing people onto the installation to firsthand, talk about what that's like. Sterile environments, people have, when you use the word manufacturing, you get that 1920s imaging of manufacturing. That couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, these guys are wearing, zero pressure suits, and they're doing really cool stuff with robotics, and it's just sort of bridging that gap of understanding what nanotechnology and nano manufacturing really equates to. And Kate does a great job making that simple for folks to understand and visualize. So great. Yep.
And I think that one thing, Kate, that we need to do a better job of is making that connection to the endpoint, which is the industry job, like Cree. Like, after this, I'm going to ask Craig, can we get some kind of little video or something that I can show how valuable the getting this training would be? That I think things like that, and getting those to out there for folks to see that the endpoint is, wow, I can get a nice career, or at least the opportunity. They won't, Cree's not going to say, I'm going to go hire this person because they took this program. I'm going to hire this person because they took this program and they're the right fit for me. They're going to make sure that they're the right fit for whatever the location is and the job is. So
exactly right. Exactly right. And and another thing we've talked about a little bit, Sean mentioned MOSs, which are military occupational specialties. MOC, I think, is in some of the branches of the military, occupational careers. But I think sometimes it's important to do a crosswalk of those and to say, well, if you've worked at this particular job in the military, let's say you're a mechanic, avionics mechanic, what do those skill sets prepare you for? And, that's another thing Craig's folks do a lot of is looking at that military experience and crosswalking it to the civilian world.
I really like that Myers-Briggs sort of experience. There's other things out there like career coach and things like that, but it's understanding what I've experienced over the last 4 years and equating that to what that equals outside of this environment. There's lots of software out there. We use a manual. We have the soldiers do it. We call it gap analysis, where they go into their MOS, they see, we tell them, we don't need to tell them what their MOS is, but we give them like, you're this, so this is what those skills are. And here's how those skills equate here. Now tell us the gap, because that's where they identify, what do I need the training to attain where I want? Yeah.
Yes, really good point. I have to say, though, I don't limit soldiers by their MOSs, because I've learned over the years that there could be someone who's working as a cook in the military, but went to school for electrical engineering and logged 3 years at an engineering school prior to coming into the military and being a cook. So I don't want to limit anybody who has these skill sets and just narrowly focus on what they've learned in the military. But those are all the things that Craig's folks work with or work on with these transitioning service members. It's identifying your skill sets, again, looking where the gaps are, and then Bob and I and other college providers come in and say, well, let's help you address those gaps. Where can we enhance your learning in this area or this area or this area? So that kind of leads me to my little program, and it's been recently reinvented. I've been working up at Drum since 2016. I had a little advanced manufacturing training program humming along, but now I've introduced a new program, and it's called VetStep. The STEP is an acronym for Semiconductor Training and Experience Program. I have 2 community college partners. Craig's former employer is one, and Mohawk Valley Community College down near my campus, my sister campus, is another. One of my community college partners provides the space for the training to occur, and the other provides the trainers and the curricula development, which has been, obviously very valuable. So our training is 2 weeks. It's hands-on. It's a hands-on model. We find that a lot of these veterans like that kinesthetic learning rather than sitting and listening. They like to be busy. They've been busy. So it's a very interactive training. And we focus on the topics of advanced manufacturing practices, basic electronics and PLCs, sensors, pneumatic technology, basic vacuum concepts, and mechatronics, diagnostics, and troubleshooting. So after the training, soldiers and veterans participants can intern with an employer for 8 weeks, gaining that invaluable on-the-job technician training. And Craig mentioned it earlier, that immersive experience is really, the secret sauce here, that they can see their future. They can see as they work in this internship slot and work in various positions on the factory floor. And I hate to even call it a factory because it's more than likely 100 times cleaner than an operating room. But as they transition to these different positions at their internship sites, they see their future. They can visualize what it's going to be like working in the civilian workforce. So we currently have 3 company partners that are offering internship opportunities, but that list is growing as more and more companies struggle to find, good technicians. Sean's employer, Cree, is one of the internship hosts, and our goal is to help Sean and his HR talent acquisition folks to attract qualified technicians to support their brand new 1 billion with a B chip fab that they just opened, and that's in upstate New York. So Sean, I hope you're coming up for the grand opening of that facility.
Wouldn't miss it for the world.
We are sure excited to have you as a neighbor and to be an employer. So that's how we're working together with companies in our neighborhood to help them get some really high quality technicians with the technical training that we provide and that soft skill that comes from their service. So those are a couple examples of how colleges can work with a base and industry. Any of you have any parting thoughts? Like, we want to get these community colleges excited. So any parting thoughts?
Well, I wanted to stress that, oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to stress the
Please, Bob, go.
hands-on portion, the hands-on portion. I didn't mention it, but we're working with another college down in the Norfolk region there, Norfolk State University, which is an HBCU, to provide the hands-on component of our training. And we think that that type of learning is really good. And, you know, they obviously have to know the foundational skills, but also get them into foundational knowledge, but then get some skill sets in clean rooms and getting an understanding. And I think that if you can bring them in some way into your laboratories, and I think that would be and I think creating these opportunities for these type of certificate programs, I think could be very, very valuable for these transitioning. I'm seeing or learning that this transition could be very valuable. It's a win-win for the transitioning military person as well as their ultimate employers.
And I think my parting words would be this, that a community college, and you saw in all the vignettes and examples we gave you today, the community college was the bridge, or the educational institution is the bridge between the soldier, the education, and the experience. So if you're still on the fence about if this is something that would bring value to your service member population in your area, get off that fence and make that phone call, because it is the educational institutions that are the binder between the opportunity and the experience, and we need you. So get on the phone and talk to your local installations. We want these partnerships.
Absolutely. Sean?
I'll just piggyback on what Craig said also. We have this huge community of talent out there, and we have this huge infrastructure of community colleges. We just need to tie you two together, because industry needs what you're offering and what those veterans can bring to the table. So please, please, please get on board with this, and let's get these folks trained, retrained, and back out into the workforce.
Yeah. Our goal, our collective goal, is that these service members who have dedicated so much, that they have a soft landing. Let's make sure that when they leave service, that a great job is waiting for them, and with an employer that truly respects their service and understands that they're getting a very valuable employee. So we're just the connectors. We're making the connections, but that's our ultimate goal. So on that note, thank you all. Thank you all so much. I learned a ton. I always learn a ton from talking to the three of you. But thank you. And to any community college out there, again, I am happy to help. I like to make connections with folks, and I can get to these three for sure if you have any additional questions. So thank you all. Enjoy your day.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
having
very
us.
much, everyone. Thank you, Kate.